the show that you're directing now called Trying, and based upon what I've read about the show, is it sort of like, maybe an intergenerational thing where they're trying to kind of understand each other, and it has to do with two very different sort of generations of people, right?
Absolutely. It's two people at kind of very different spectrums of their life, and both find themselves in a relationship that they never anticipated would happen. So the story is about Francis Biddle, who was the former Attorney General under Roosevelt and the chief judge during the Nuremberg trials for the United States. And he is trying to finish his memoirs. He's 81 years old, and he hires a 25-year-old secretary from Canada, from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And so the story looks at someone who is very much at the beginning of her life and trying to navigate the challenges that she's facing, and someone who's looking back on his and looking at some of the regrets and also some of the passions and tremendous contributions he made, yet also some of the things that were most meaningful to him, his family, his children, and his parents are surfacing in very powerful ways for him. So it looks at some of the conflicts that exist between them. It's very funny, it's tremendously moving, and it's really about two people that strive to make a difference in the world, one who has done that, and the other is at the beginning.
And the story is based on some real-life experiences by the person who was the real secretary, right?
Yeah, the play is written by Joanna Glass, who's a wonderful playwright. And she was actually Francis Biddle's secretary in the last year of his life. And so initially she tried to write a play about this, a one-act play that kind of looked at Biddle's life and had some moments from the Nuremberg trials and some of the things that happened when he was Attorney General, and said she couldn't quite find an authentic way to bring that fully to stage. And so what as she worked on it, and worked on it and put it aside and worked on it and put it aside. It took about 35 years for her actually to take that story and some of the life experiences that she had nursing her partner who she loved through cancer and his loss, and how that really gave her insight into this particular story. So when she wrote it, finally it was finished in 2003, she really was kind of in between the age of Sarah, who plays a secretary, and Biddle, and so really understood both their perspectives in terms of their life experience.
Very cool. Talk about casting for this show, Jim. Are you pleased with the selections for the casting for this program?
We have a fantastic cast. We have Philip Goodwin, who is playing Biddle. Philip is an incredibly experienced actor who's done both work on Broadway and a lot of work in New Jersey and in the D.C. area for the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey and the Shakespeare Theater in D.C. His sense of language and understanding of emotion and clarity of character is really beautiful to behold. He's a true artist, and it's such a pleasure to watch him work. And he is playing his opposite is Carly Zine. She's a wonderful young actor who has incredible passion and sensitivity as an artist, and so the two of them together they both bring great kind of comic joy into the room, yet also kind of deep meaning and really kind of specific understandings of this relationship and why it's important.
And what I like about this story, Jim, is that it's got its comedic moments, it's got its laughable moments, but at the same time, it's kind of touching when you see the interaction between the characters there. And anybody that sees Trying at George Street Playhouse, it's going to be a bunch of different emotions, and it's just a great story to listen to and watch, right?
Absolutely. I think that the comedy is very much the comedy of humanity in terms of how we navigate our world and the places that we are in our lives, and how does that make us vulnerable and how does it make us powerful, and also what is it ultimately about, being here on this planet? What are you here to do? And for someone who has had extraordinary accomplishments and was kind of the great legal mind of the New Deal and really helped move forward collective bargaining and was a huge advocate for the Bill of Rights and really set up a lot of the structures that we now use in terms of the military tribunals and how we think about war and its impact on countries. This man still had very deep passions that were never resolved in his life in terms of his own family. And so it's very moving that way. So you think that, and then how this young person from Canada and the prairie, who comes from a radically different class, he is as close to American aristocracy as you get, gives him a gift with her empathy and her regard and her spirit and her grit that is quite remarkable. And so I think that you're absolutely right. There's a lot of emotions and humor and regard that happens in this story.
Very cool. Speaking with Jim Jack, the director of the show Trying, which is on stage at George Street Playhouse through April 8th. You can visit georgestreetplayhouse.org or call 732-246-7717 for tickets and, of course, for more information. Now, Jim, the interim home over on College Farm Road in New Brunswick, it's only 2 miles away from the former location of George Street Playhouse and the future home of George Street Playhouse. It feels like you're 100 miles away. The first time I was there, you would swear that there was a theater there for years and years and years. It's been just such a perfect fit for George Street Playhouse to occupy this space. Talk about what it's like from the director's perspective in what's virtually sort of a new performance space that you're going to be in for the next year or so.
Yeah, it's what was remarkable about our old space, which was the former YMCA, is the only reason we were able to put a theater there was because there was a swimming pool down below, and there was no central beam that would have blocked our capacity to create good sight lines for the audience. And here on the Cook campus, the only reason why we were able to put a theater is because they had this big exhibition space in the former New Jersey Agricultural Museum for farm equipment. So there's a nice tall space that is intimate. It seats about just under 200 seats, and I think our production staff did an astonishing job of really setting the space so that it can be a real pleasure for all members of the audience. Everyone's been raving. First of all, there's no fee for any parking, but also there's no stairs into the building, and so it's really easy to access. There's a spirit of warmth that I think is what we kind of believe deeply in at George Street, and so it's been nice that the first 3 shows of the season, each set has been so radically different, and so this is the first time we're putting in something that's relatively realistic, and so that's kind of been fun. We just had the load in last week, and the set looks great in the space.
Terrific, and again, to be just 2 miles away from all the great restaurants and all the great destinations in downtown New Brunswick, and like you said, to be able to park for free for a George Street Playhouse performance is it's a great thing, and you're obviously very excited about the future of New Brunswick and the brand new Performing Arts Center, which will be the permanent home of George Street Playhouse in a few years.
Absolutely. I was just driving by the other day, and there's 5 or so stories up already, and so it's going to be a tremendous new space for us and the other theaters, and they're going to be participating with us in these 2 brand new theaters, one that's got about 465 seats and the other about 265. So there's going to be intimacy and then also spaces that can really hold a Broadway-sized show. And I think it's going to be a great gift to the city and the county as a whole to provide a place for such rich arts, and someone can see something one night and something completely different the next. And so we think it's going to be just further impress upon this state and the country as a whole, what a powerful place for the arts that New Brunswick is.
Yep, no question about it. But in the meantime, make sure you catch the new show called Trying at George Street Playhouse's interim home at 103 College Farm Road in New Brunswick. And again, Trying is going to be on stage through April 8th. You can get tickets at georgestreetplayhouse.org or by calling the box office 732-246-7717. Jim Jack, thank you for taking some time away. I know you're busy with rehearsals and things. See you again very soon, all right?
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. All the best.